Khamzat Chimaev went out there and just wiped the floor with him. He did. Dricus never gave up. Fair play to Dricus du Plessis. He stayed composed, he stayed focused, he didn't panic, he didn't quit, he didn't give up on himself.
Nah, not like people talking about, so could take him down like anyone else.
And I don't care. Honestly, I'll say this once more. If that's what you're looking for as champ, watch another channel. Straight up, watch another channel. I ain't trying to see that shit as champ. Do some damage, you it's a combat sport, you're a bitch.
Khamzat Chimaev stormed into the octagon and brutally dismantled Dricus du Plessis, sealing the fight in a way that sent shockwaves throughout the MMA community. Following his dominant win, Khamzat Chimaev dismissed the hype surrounding Dricus du Plessis, insisting the South African wasn't nearly as tough as many analysts had claimed. Chimaev pointed out that du Plessis was taken down with ease, no different from the other opponents he has faced throughout his career.
That's just to have fun with my friends. I take them in this position, like holding them 25 minutes, 1 hour sometimes. They let them so make them humble. Some guys, like, nobody can take me down, hold me down. So I take them to the gym, hold them down there with this position. So yeah, I does this a lot. Nah, not like people talking about, so could take him down like anyone else. I don't care about these things, bro. I just, where they gives the money, I fight anyone.
Echoing that sentiment, Michael Bisping weighed in on the bout, stressing that it was nowhere near competitive. He explained that Khamzat Chimaev was in complete control from start to finish, ragdolling Dricus du Plessis throughout the contest. Bisping also noted that the judges' scorecards reflected the same story, with all three officials scoring the fight identically.
Khamzat Chimaev went out there and just wiped the floor with him. He did. Dricus never gave up. Fair play to Dricus du Plessis. He stayed composed, he stayed focused, he didn't panic, he didn't quit, he didn't give up on himself. In between rounds at the start of the fight, he was still kind of jovial and saying, look, listen, I got this. At the end of the fight, he was still confident of getting a finish. And his best moment came at the end of the fight. In round 5, he managed to stop a takedown. He landed a couple of shots on the feet, managed to get top position, but then Khamzat Chimaev, with that freakishly good wrestling that he has, was able to turn the tide and get on top once again. Now,
at the same time, Bisping observed that du Plessis did well in defending and burying his head to limit the openings Khamzat Chimaev could exploit. But ultimately, it was not enough. He pointed out that du Plessis spent a long stretch trapped in the crucifix position, and whether he scored 10-8 or 10-9, it was a dominant display from Chimaev. Bisping added that du Plessis would likely bounce back, as setbacks like this provide lessons that help a fighter improve.
Special up, if you will, to limit the target for Khamzat Chimaev, but it wasn't enough. He spent a lot of time in that crucifix, and yeah, okay, a 10-8 round, a 10-9 round, it doesn't matter. It was a very, very dominant display. I'm sure Dricus du Plessis would agree. Now, he says he's not done, he's not finished.
And I'll be back, and I'm coming back, get my belt back.
And I, for one, agree with that. I'm sure Dricus du Plessis, he's young enough to make a comeback, and you learn and you get better. But I'm telling you, right now, we are living in the era of Khamzat Chimaev. As I said, he took him down and got that crucifix really quick. He didn't get tired throughout the entirety of the fight. Even in the 5th round, yeah, okay, the pace slowed a little bit, and that was why Dricus was able to stop some takedowns. But this is the 5th round of an MMA fight, where Khamzat had been dominating the whole time.
However, not everyone saw the fight in the same light. The MMA guru raged over Khamzat Chimaev's victory, claiming he's the first fighter to win a championship without inflicting any real damage.
Khamzat Chimaev, dude, the first guy to win a championship without causing any harm. It's a horrible sight to see. He avoided combat at all costs, but he got it done for 25 minutes. You've got to admire Merab Dvalishvili for how much he's willing to scrap with fighters. You've got to admire Merab. Honestly, on a deeper level, you have to admire Merab Dvalishvili for how active he is and how much he trades on the feet and actually scraps with his opponents. Shout out to champions like Merab who do that, because that in comparison was the most pathetic thing I've ever seen in my life. Thank you for the $20. Imagine Lerone Murphy mogging you on excitement levels. Yeah, I know. Pathetic to watch.
In addition, he blasted Chimaev's performance, calling it a terrible sight for the sport.
Sam Calavita put him on EPO, I don't care. It doesn't even need EPO to have that boring of a performance, not at all. Hey Guru didn't catch the fight, who do you think won? Chimaev won, he did no damage, but he won. It sucks. Dricus, you ain't getting it, brother. You ain't getting it, come on. I come for everybody. I genuinely don't care. It's sad to see du Plessis lose, but hey, if Chimaev don't want to fight, you don't want to fight. And I don't care. Honestly, I'll say this once more. If that's what you're looking for as champ, watch another channel. Straight up, watch another channel. I ain't trying to see that shit as champ. Do some damage, you to combat sport. You're a end of. That's my take.
Meanwhile, Luke Thomas commented on the referee's intervention, asserting that the decision to stand the fighters up was the right one. He noted that while Khamzat Chimaev was in a dominant position, he wasn't effectively advancing the fight. Instead, he was landing non-threatening shots and letting the time pass, and Thomas backed the referee's choice, highlighting that if a fighter is unable to progress and the opponent can't break free, a reset is warranted. He concluded that there was nothing outrageous about that decision.
Were the ref stand-ups. They weren't egregious at all. I supported both of them. Not a thing about them was egregious. Guys, people in MMA will game control positions with, are they busy doing something? Sure, they're busy, but they're not meaningfully advancing the fight. Stand them up. Totally okay with that. If you're in a control position and you're just throwing busy shots and waiting for the clock to run out, that. Advance the fight, and if you won't and they can't, the referee should.
In addition, Sean Strickland fired off a typically unfiltered statement, claiming he's likely the only fighter in the UFC capable of out-grappling his rival for full 5 rounds. He went on X and wrote, "I'm probably the only one in the UFC that can out-grapple that little for 5 rounds. Well, looks like I gotta stack some W's to fight that little I'm out." In response, Khamzat Chimaev dismissed Strickland's comments, pointing out that Dricus had taken Strickland down multiple times during their matchup. By that logic, Chimaev implied the notion of Strickland successfully grounding him was not only impossible but also unrealistic.
To take him down many times, but how can he take me down, bro? Come on. This guy, I beat him everywhere and striking, but this guy just talk too much. So he's a funny guy. He's working with, what is his name? Buratino or what is it?
Yeah, Paulo Costa.
Yeah, Paulo. I make them together.
However, adding fuel to the fire, Paulo Costa was quick to fire back at Chimaev, branding him a boring fighter who failed to make the contest entertaining. Costa mocked the bout and wrote an X stating, "Illegally streamed the fight, and I want a refund." In response to all such claims, Demetrius Johnson hit back at critics who labeled the fight boring and unentertaining, arguing that those who did not enjoy it should simply turn it off and watch something else. He emphasized there was no reason to bash a fight style that they clearly did not understand.
If you guys don't want to watch grappling and wrestling and jiu-jitsu, don't watch UFC. Don't. You guys are complaining about something that it's a very simple problem to fix. It's a very simple problem to fix. For example, let's say Khamzat's about to fight again. You don't want to watch a style. All you gotta do is go like this. You see this button right here? It's called off button. You just go like this. You go off. You don't have to see Khamzat wrestle. It's a very simple problem to have. It's a very simple problem to fix, guys.
On the other side of the spectrum, former double champion Henry Cejudo praised Chimaev's display. Cejudo took to social media to hail the performance. He said, "Khamzat Chimaev is not human." In a follow-up post, Henry acknowledged Dricus du Plessis' heart and toughness, but emphasized that Khamzat Chimaev is operating on an entirely different level. He wrote, "Dricus showed heart, but Khamzat Chimaev is on another level right now. He may very well be champion for years to come." Echoing that sense of inevitability, Dana White admitted that the fight unfolded differently than he had anticipated, though he wasn't entirely shocked by the outcome. He noted that if Khamzat Chimaev could dominate in the first round, it was very likely he would carry that momentum into the second round and beyond.
No. The lead up to this fight, I said, I bet the main event is the fight of the night. Didn't see that coming, but not shocked either. I mean, you go in and dominate the way that he dominated. If you can do it the first round, more than likely you can do it the second and throughout the rest of the fight. When we were on Fight Island, he said, "I want to fight next Saturday." Ever since then, the guy's been a rocket ship, and obviously is very popular too. People love him. Fighting back here in the United States, and obviously Chicago loved him too.
Furthermore, Dana added that he scored every round 10-8 in favor of Chimaev except for the final round. He described Dricus du Plessis' position on the ground, taking heavy punishment, as extremely frustrating, but praised du Plessis for his resilience. noting that he continued to fight back and make an effort to turn the bout around in every round.
First of all, I had every round at 10-8, maybe except for the last round. To be in the position that he was in and the crucifix and just getting dominated on the ground and punched in the face and elbowed, and it's a very frustrating place to be in. I thought he handled it well and came out every round, trying to get in the fight and try to win. Yeah, they are, and I don't want to know how hard they are. Nobody wants to be in a crucifix getting punched in the head like that. It's got to be the most frustrating, suck the heart and soul right out of you type thing to happen. And just getting dominated on the ground the way that he did is no fun for anybody. I wouldn't say that, he's getting pitted-patted striked. I mean, his face was pretty busted up.
Interestingly, Ariel Helwani broke down the numbers from the fight, highlighting the sheer volume of significant strikes Khamzat Chimaev landed on Dricus du Plessis. He pointed out that Chimaev connected on 510 of 567 attempts, a ratio that could stand as a record.
50-44 on all three judges' scorecards. It goes the distance. And the best way to describe this fight, in my opinion, was domination. Absolute, total domination. Just listen very quickly to some of these numbers here. Khamzat Chimaev landed 510 strikes, according to ESPN's Fight Center. 510 strikes in this 5-round fight. He threw 567. I'm no mathematician, but that's a pretty damn good ratio right there. 510 out of 567, that percentage has to be an all-time record.
On top of that, Chimaev secured 12 takedowns out of 17 attempts, further underlining his dominance.
Control time. Look at the control time here. Where's the control time? I had it. It was around 21 minutes, 21:40 for Khamzat Chimaev, and like a minute and a half total for DDP. A couple of minutes here and there, just sort of in the ether as they were on their feet, very sparingly. Total domination. There were a couple of moments of hope for DDP in the 5th round. He's in half guard. He goes for a guillotine, but overall, I mean, you got to give DDP all the credit in the world. He was smiling each and every time a round started. He was telling his corner, I'm going to do it.
Moreover, Michael Bisping stated that Khamzat Chimaev becoming champion would spell disaster for the division. Not for the reasons Din Thomas suggested, but because he sees no one capable of beating him. Bisping explained that Chimaev looks virtually unstoppable, adding that the only fighter who might have a chance against him is Reinier de Ridder.
Said this will be a disaster with Khamzat Chimaev as the champion. I don't mean because of what Dean Thomas said. Dean Thomas was like, he isn't going to be able to fight too frequently. He struggles to get visas and stuff like that. No, when I say this is a disaster, it's a disaster for the division. Because from what I see there, ain't nobody, apart from Reinier de Ridder, ain't nobody beating him. Reinier de Ridder is the only guy that has a shot because of the jiu-jitsu, because of the skills that he has off his back, okay? And it was a really good point from Dean Thomas again on commentary. He's talked about Gilbert Burns when he fought Khamzat Chimaev, because he had a very dangerous guard. He was forcing Chimaev to work. Even though he was on top, he was having to fight to keep his position.
Building on that analysis, Bisping confidently stated that Khamzat Chimaev is said to have one of the longest and most commanding reigns in UFC middleweight history. He highlighted that the division has traditionally been led by strikers and observed that fans haven't yet seen a wrestler of Chimaev's skill rise to the top at 185 pounds.
This is going to be probably a very long and dominant reign in the middleweight division. And I don't think we've ever seen a dominant wrestler like Khamzat Chimaev in the middleweight division. Typically, it's been strikers. I mean, look at Israel Adesanya, look at Anderson Silva, Rich Franklin. I mean, the list goes on. Yeah, we had Chris Weidman. He was a very good wrestler, defended the belt a few times, to be fair, but still. So yeah, Khamzat Chimaev went out there, dominated the fight, and yeah, there was a couple of rounds that could have been 10-8 rounds, and I put that on Twitter, and that caused a bit of a shitstorm because people don't know how to judge. I went to a seminar and it said, look, listen, there's 3 Ds: damage, duration, and dominance, okay? He was very dominant. He controlled the duration of the fight, and yeah, okay, he didn't necessarily do a lot of damage.
Additionally, Belal Muhammad chimed in after the fight with a blunt reaction, remarking that he had already predicted the outcome. He stated, "Told you it would be easy." Furthermore, Belal took a jab at Dricus du Plessis with a sarcastic post, first appearing to praise him for showing heart and refusing to give up before mocking him by saying he actually performed poorly. Bilal wrote, "Shoot out to Dricus. You showed a lot of heart, you never gave up." Just kidding, you sucked. That was 5-10-8s. In contrast, the Weasel pointed out that Dricus successfully defended every rare naked choke attempt, stressing that this, in itself, deserves a great deal of respect. He explained that very few fighters possess the skill to fend off submissions of that caliber, noting that even Kamaru Usman was caught deep in one, whereas du Plessis never allowed Chimaev's attempts to come close.
So shooting takedowns, controlling the opponent, going for some rear naked chokes that were all defended by Dricus, which deserves a lot of respect because not a lot of fighters have the capabilities of defending chokes like that. Dricus didn't even let them get close, whereas Usman was sunk deep into one, Whitaker got neck cranked, various other fighters got rear naked choked by him, but Dricus didn't even let them get close. His wrestling defense was nearly non-existent. He couldn't defend a takedown until later in the fight where they got slippery, but then couldn't defend the chain wrestling after the initial takedown. But his submission defense was impressive. His experience in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu definitely helped him throw off those submissions, but his lack of experience in fighting wrestlers greatly diminished his abilities in this fight.
The Weasel noted that in the final minute, it almost felt like Dricus du Plessis' plot armor kicked in as he suddenly surged with energy. He slipped out of a takedown, landed on top of Khamzat, and even managed to reverse a takedown for the first time in the fight. It was a brief moment, but one where du Plessis appeared revitalized, moving into full mount and attempting a rare naked choke that the Weasel argued looked tighter than any of Chimaev's earlier attempts.
Crazy. He slipped out of a takedown, landed on top, then later reversed Khamzat's takedown for the first time. I don't know what filled his veins there. I don't know what turned the tides of the fight for him because he was never able to do that before. It's the plot armor. It buffed him for a second. Got into full mount, went for the rear naked choke, which was closer than any of Khamzat's. That almost made me a believer of plot armor right there. After losing 10-8 rounds multiple times, to win a fight like that would be something out of a movie. But Khamzat was able to defend it. Then Dricus went for a Hail Mary guillotine. Understandable, he was down in so many of the rounds, but Khamzat was able to defend it because of how slippery he was as well. But interesting enough, the first takedown of the fight, so he starts the entire fight with a front kick to the body, and that alone conditioned Dricus.
In the end, James Lynch acknowledged that du Plessis fell short, noting that apart from a brief sequence in the final round, he was mostly unable to mount any offense. He emphasized that the fight was dominated by Khamzat Chimaev. He also added that Khamzat proved he can now go the distance. So whether you plan for a short or a full 5-round fight, the fighters are going to be in trouble either way.
This is incredible. 28-3. Dricus du Plessis had 3 significant strikes in a championship fight. That's got to be like a record. And it's not because he didn't fight well. It's because Chimaev was able to control him. So this entire fight was just Chimaev holding him down, controlling him. You look at the takedowns there, or total strikes, 442 of 467. So he gets 28 significant strikes. He got 9 of 11 takedowns. Not much to say here. This was a bit of an interesting fight because, well, like I said, we got the answer that Chimaev can go 5 rounds. So I think you're screwed either way. Like if you're trying to fight Chimaev, it doesn't matter if it's early or late. He's going to be able to go 5 rounds. That was solved in this fight.
Ultimately, Khamzat Chimaev's victory over Dricus du Plessis has divided fans and analysts, with opinions ranging from admiration to outright criticism. Yet, what remains undeniable is the scale of his dominance inside the octagon and the growing belief that he may be ushering in a new era at middleweight. If you enjoyed this breakdown, make sure to smash that like button, subscribe and turn on notifications, and we shall see you in the next video with more exciting updates.